The most courageous Ender's Game character. Only those who will risk going too far can possibly find out how far one will go. T.S. Eliot. Courage is not just being brave. Courage can be doing something for the greater good, even if it's frightening. Courage can be standing up for oneself or others, or struggling through a challenge that is beyond one's personal limits. No matter which type of courage is displayed, it is an important and valuable trait to have. One could say it takes courage to have courage. One may be strong, one may be wise, but one will not truly be courageous until he or she is willing to be, and then proves it. In Orson Scott Card's Ender's Game, Ender is the most courageous character for a myriad of reasons. A practically vital trait of almost any courageous person is the ability to accept challenges, even with odds stacked against him or her. Ender Wiggin portrays this trait multiple times throughout the book, even early in his life. When Ender was only 6 years old, he was faced with a challenge like this, a fight with Stilson. Not only was Stilson larger and stronger, but he also had a group of friends to back him up. He wasn't bigger than most other kids, but he was bigger than Ender, and he had some others with him. This was a huge challenge for Ender to face, because not only did he want to beat Stilson in this battle, he wanted to beat Stilson so hard that Ender would never be bullied by him again. Because of this motive, Ender takes on the challenge and ends up winning, all because of his willingness to do so. Another example was when Ender got promoted to commander of Dragon Army. First of all, this army used to have a history of being bad. Of course, this didn't last long with Ender as commander. In addition, Ender was given an army of rookies and lawn chiefs and wasn't allowed to trade them at all. None of the veterans belonged to Ender's elite practice group. None had even been a toon leader. None, in fact, were older than Ender himself. With these students, he pretty much had to start from scratch with his training. On top of this, he was faced with many challenges throughout the actual battles. First, he had a battle each day, while the other groups had at least a week's break. Then, he would have 2 battles every day, or most days. Eventually, he would have more unfair battles, where he was facing 2 teams at a time, or the other team had more time to prepare. Though Ender faced all of these rigged challenges, he still went through and won. Another courageous trait that Ender has is his willingness to make sacrifices for the greater good. This is a big part of being courageous because even if it doesn't benefit him, he'll do it for the sake of the community. A strong example for this is when Graf first invites him to go join the school, where he'll be put through hours of brutal training, days of merciless battle, and probably won't see his family again for a long time. Of course, he didn't particularly want to do this, but he did anyway. It's what I was born for, isn't it? If I don't go, why am I alive? I don't want to go, but I will. This is a very brave and courageous thing to do, because even at age 6, Ender knows what is right from what is wrong. Ender also exhibits this trait when he feels like he doesn't want to be in battle school anymore because nothing is in his favor. I don't want to play anymore. Just when I start to be happy, just when I think I can handle things, they stick in another knife. However, Valentine eventually talked Ender into going back. He was only thinking about himself, how he was always a killer and how he couldn't defeat the buggers. But Valentine then reminded him that he needed to think about her and every other human being who would die if he didn't try. And this made him go back and fight. He realized that he was being selfish and realized that he had to look at the bigger picture. Finally, Ender is willing to lead and good at it. As a leader, he doesn't hesitate to go against others' ideas and the common way of thinking. In other words, he's creative and intelligent with the ability to be a good leader. This is a very courageous thing to be, for it's easy to be a follower and take in commands, but it's harder to give the orders and know what to do and when to do it. The responsibility would make many shy away, but not Ender. In fact, his leadership skills helped him progress through his rankings in battle school and eventually be able to destroy the buggers. Because of this intelligence and leadership, he was promoted to commander at age 9. His mind is keen, his play is excellent. Young as he is, we've never had a boy better prepared for command. Usually they go at 11, but at 9.5 and he's top flight. Throughout his time as commander, he always came up with unique ideas for battle strategies, such as having the toon leaders command the toons rather than him commanding everyone. He also created the unusual strategy of using frozen legs as a shield, and many more. He was eventually able to defeat the buggers with his creativity, improvisation, and leadership. Though Ender is clearly courageous in a number of ways, arguments can be made to show that Peter Wiggin is the most courageous character. One way he appears to be courageous is because he is not afraid to kill and or be mean to people. However, he is only being mean and threatening to kill people to cover up his emotions. He's actually a very soft, sensitive kind of person and acts mean to hide that. Ender, on the other hand, was never mean to anyone and never killed intentionally. He was simply standing up for himself. It doesn't take courage to be mean to others, but it takes a great sum of courage to stand up to people who are mean. Peter also appears to be courageous in the way that he's willing to lead. However, he doesn't show this trait much, only when he was working with Valentine on the Locke and Demosthenes project. First of all, it's not very hard to lead one person, especially in something that's not necessarily vital to humanity. In addition, Peter eventually stopped leading Valentine through it, but she was perfectly fine on her own. Finally, when one compares Peter's acts of leadership to Ender's acts, Ender's are greater, for he had a lot more pressure on him, a larger group to lead, and had to come up with his own creative ideas. Ender is very courageous in many ways, and Peter is not. Ender Wiggin shows courage in a multitude of ways, by standing up for himself, by persevering through difficulties, and simply by knowing wrong from right. Courage is something that's very hard to find in people, but is represented very strongly in Ender. The word courage is also very vague, and the definition can vary. However, no matter what definition one goes by, Ender Wiggin is by far the most courageous character in Ender's Game.